I kind of entitled this session tongue in cheek, is it finally time to go for certification and accreditation? CCLE has been offering accreditation for 10 years now, and we are up to 18 schools. So I'm very pleased with that. We have had certification for 4 years, and we are up to 7 individuals that are certified. So it's time for the rest of you to get on the bandwagon here. So, all right. The first thing I will talk about is the certification. Certification is provided for educator certification and for administrator certification. There are 3 marks for educator. This will be available on the website, by the way. Or if you want it faster than that, you can email me. My email address will be up in a minute. There are 3 marks for educator certification and 3 marks for administrator certification. And I think when we go through the marks, you'll notice something about them. The components of the process, we have an application template, which lists the requirements that you will need to use to demonstrate proficiency. They are things such as short essays. I know we're not all college students used to writing out, a 10-page paper overnight, but a 2-page essay or something on various specific topics. We ask about your future goals and plans. There is always a certification fee. They are valid for 10 years, and once you are certified, then we expect you to self-report back to me by the end of June, just to tell me what have you done in the past year that you said you were going to do in your future goals and plans. So we're trying to keep you to that, on track with that. So the marks of a classical Lutheran educator, as I said, there are 3 of them. The educator demonstrates an understanding of and commitment to Lutheran doctrine. Number 2, the educator understands and is committed to a classical approach to curriculum and educational methodology. Number 3, the educator effectively performs all administrative responsibilities in the position in a timely, efficient, and professional manner. All right, so for each of these marks, we have requirements and that you provide the evidence to demonstrate that you meet those marks. If you're interested as an administrator, we have the marks. The administrator demonstrates an understanding of and commitment to Lutheran doctrine. The administrator understands and is committed to a classical approach to curriculum and educational methodology. And the administrator effectively performs all administrative responsibilities in the position in a timely, efficient, and professional manner. So, what did we notice from these 3 marks? They are the same. Yes, they are the same. So, if you are here as an administrator, I have a bargain for you. You can end up with dual certification in a fairly straightforward way. I'll talk about that in a minute. The requirements, whether it's educator or administrator, are very straightforward. We will request a letter from your pastor. We will expect that you are a member in good standing of a Lutheran church. We will expect some essays, and here's where it's slightly different between educator and administrator. The educator will come up with 7 essays. The administrator will come up with 9. Because administrators, they don't have enough to do. They can do a little more extra work, right? For educational proficiencies, if you can provide a transcript, indicating if you've had a college work at a classical institution, that's very impressive. Coursework, equivalencies, if you have a Lutheran teacher diploma. We have several different ways to work this, since sadly so many of us haven't been able to attend a classical institution for higher education. For your curriculum work for Mark 2, for the teachers, we require lesson and unit plans. For the administrators, we ask for a curriculum overview. So that's where it's different. Yes?
Curriculum work, like the lesson plans, about how much of lesson plans would you like to see, or
It's actually pretty specific. We need to see, I think it's 5 days worth, so daily lessons. We also want to see a unit lesson plan, and then we want to see if you have an annual plan. So, because planning is everything for teachers. And so we want to see how you have planned it out, kind of the scope and sequence of the actual instruction, so to speak. But for administrators who may not be in the classroom, or maybe many of us are, we have a slightly different focus on we want you to provide evidence about how you have organized the curriculum in your school. So we also expect there to be observations and evaluations. So if you don't have any yet, we do have several CCLE forms that I can email to you, and you can use for having somebody watch you, or you can use it in your school so that you can have an evaluation. Again, you see that the only difference between the educator and the administrator is mainly Mark 2. So the application process is that you complete the certification introduction form. Obviously, I need to know your name, your address, your particular situation. Are you a homeschooler? Are you a online teacher? Are you in a physical location? I do want to encourage the homeschool people. 2 of our certified teachers are homeschool teachers, so it can be done. So you scan and compile all of your essays, your documents, and you send them to me electronically. We've had no difficulty in having these as email attachments. If you wanted to send them on a thumb drive, that would be up to you. But or set up a Google file so that we can have the more than one person evaluating them can look at them, and then mail the certification fee to the treasurer. We've just changed treasurers, so I don't have that address memorized. If you need to know it, please just contact me and I can send that to you. Once we get your information, your application, and all of your documents, then we have a team which consists of members of the board who will go through your materials and check off that, yes, it meets that mark, it satisfies that mark. Or if necessary, we might contact you and say, we noticed you didn't send in an observation or an evaluation. Was that an oversight? Did you forget about that? Uh, or something along that line. We also might go ahead and certify you, but make a recommendation. And that's not a mark of shame by any means. That just means, for instance, next year, by next year, could you please send us another evaluation or send us an evaluation? The certification is good for 10 years, although to be continually certified, you would start in year 10 to do it over again. So, and again, as I said before, if you are both the educator and an administrator, then if you do both Mark 2 for educator and for administrator, we will give you credit for marks 1 and 3 for both of them. Does that make sense? Because it's only Mark 2 that has different evidence that's required. So you end up doing work for about 4 marks, but you get certified for 6 of them. So this is provided you do this within a 2-year time limit, because over 2 years, the situation could change enough that Yeah, the board felt 2 years was enough time to go for dual certification. But you do have to pay for both certifications. Right now, the fee is $100. I don't anticipate it going up. But if you went for dual certification, then that would cost you $200. So, are there any questions about certification? Yes.
If you are directing a homeschool campus that is not Lutheran, but you're Lutheran, would that be okay to qualify as an administrator, or would that not be considered a Lutheran education?
I think that they would qualify if you are Lutheran, because you'll be able to get a letter from Pastor Douthwaite or whoever, yeah, it would be, and that you are. It is still an educational situation. It's an educational situation where you are dealing with, as an administrator, with other people of faculty, and then also with parents and students. That's what an administrator does.
So we're working in Lutheran stuff.
Yes, you're working in Lutheran. You're actually taking them over from the inside. So, yes.
If you've previously taught at a Lutheran school that's not classical, do those observation notes count? If you are implementing those ideas into your classroom?
I think that they would. That might be an instance, however, where we would accept your previous observations, but recommend that within X amount of time, please have Wittenberg Academy complete an evaluation and submit that. Because we know that Wittenberg Academy would evaluate your classical stuff. So, yes.
The essays that you mentioned that are required, do you give a topic? What's the length of those? Can you expand more on that?
1 to 2 pages. It's for Mark 1, and we ask educators to write 5 essays that are 1 to 2 pages each on a choice of about 20 Lutheran doctrines. So, what do you understand about vocation? What do you understand about the two kingdoms? What do you know about law and gospel? So, that one is, Mark is gauging about what is your understanding and commitment to Lutheran doctrines. But we've listed a choice. So, and if you can come up with another Lutheran doctrine that's not listed there, I think we would still accept it. So, okay. Did you had another? Yes.
I ran off the information from the CCLE website, and it said 2 curriculum areas, 5 daily plans, a unit plan, and a semester plan. For 2 curriculum areas, or just 1?
Is that for the? I think it's for 2,
Okay.
but within that. So, for instance, if you're a history teacher, American history and European history would be 2 different areas. So we were trying to word it so that elementary teachers, it's easy for them to separate. And high school teachers, it's not as easily. If you're just a science teacher, you're going, well, how am I going to have 2 areas? Well, chemistry and biology, 2 different areas. So.
And then 5 essays, but I thought it said 7.
Well, for administrators.
Okay.
Administrators have to have 7 theological essays.
Okay.
And instead of just 5. Because again, the administrators on our board all thought that they could handle doing 2 more essays than just teachers. So,
Thank you.
and you had a question.
Are there any particular formatting requirements for the essays? For example, is it MLA double space or single space, or when you say a page and a half?
I believe that they have been either. I can remember some were single spaced and some were double spaced. I mean, we're not expecting you to write a book. That is the main thing. I don't want to. I don't think Lutherans are afraid of doing a little writing and thinking. And we've certainly had some essays that were longer than a couple of pages. Absolutely. I love reading. So I'm hoping somebody is going to submit her senior project. So, that could be, 35 pages? I'm looking forward to it. Again, the evidence for that one is simply to demonstrate that you have an understanding of Lutheran doctrine and again, the letter from your Lutheran pastor. So,
About how long, and I know it depends on like personal, but working through this, about how long of a process typically does it take?
I think it probably takes the review team longer than it might actually take
Just to
the
compile.
teacher, yeah, to compile. Especially since we're not asking you to, other than the essays, we're not asking you to create new lesson plans to show for us. We're asking to see work that you've already done.
And is there any, I don't know, things that you're looking for, like say in the lesson plans themselves, specific, like, or it'd be good to have, like,
If you can indicate the teaching instruction, the instructional technique that you're planning to use. So if you're in grammar level school and you're going to be chanting the Shirley Grammar chants, then just
use
yeah,
jingles.
use jingles. You focus on that. Choir, chorus memory work, things like that. Yeah. So you might kind of annotate your lesson plan. When I wrote my lesson plans, they were just enough of an outline so I knew what they were. So I would need to annotate them if I were doing it for this. Okay. Unless you have any other questions about certification, I'd like to move on to accreditation. I know there's some other hot sessions going on. So the school accreditation does remain the same process that it has been before. Now, this might be the one time that I don't know whether we could accredit a non-Lutheran school. That would be, yeah, that would be a big. Matter of fact, I know we couldn't. So, but the marks that we have for the school accreditation remain the same that they have been since we initiated the process. The process is the same. The school submits a letter of interest to initiate this. The headmaster, the principal, and I start this wonderful email correspondence, best friends forever. That becomes my role, is to support the school with whatever questions they have. If they're not sure about how to, what to do, then I will be the person that you ask. Uh, when we are in the process of working on the self study, I also will be talking with the school about when do they want to have the site visit? When do they want to? Do they have somebody in particular that they'd like to serve on the team? So uh, we want this to be a very supportive and very helpful process. Uh, I send you a document once you indicate that you're applying. That's called the Benchmarks for Excellence. And the Benchmarks for Excellence list every single little subcomponent of each mark, and it suggests possible pieces of evidence. Now, we're not asking for every piece of evidence. I might list 5 pieces of evidence. Please don't feel you need to get 5 of them. If you can get 2 of them or 3 of them, that is sufficient. And also, please realize that once you've got a piece of evidence, it might support several different marks. So if you have a curriculum guide or a curriculum map, or if you've reworked your curriculum into truth statements, that will fit and work as evidence for quite a few of the submarks. So we're not trying to overwork you and make this an onerous burden. We also have descriptors for each mark, which kind of gives you a hint for what the team will be looking for. So, for instance, in Mark 1, is there a written commitment somewhere that establishes the authority of the school? Well, usually that's stated in the church constitution. It might not be, it might be in the school charter or something, but there'll be something somewhere. And if we see it, that's all there is to it. If it's not there, or if it's not clear that it's there, and you know what, church constitutions are really interesting documents. I've seen a lot more interesting church constitutions than I would have thought. Uh, if it's not there, we may have to come back with a recommendation saying you have nothing in your church constitution that connects your school to your church, and yet so you need to revise your church constitution. Now that is a very dramatic um, example, and in general, um, the benchmarks give you help you to figure out what you need to collect. Give some strong suggestions. Some of the benchmarks you must earn a 2 for. They are non-negotiables. If you don't have a 2, then you will not be recommended for accreditation. Those are identified. They generally are the doctrinal commitment and the commitment to classical education. I think it's logical to understand why, if you're not committed to the Lutheran doctrine, that CCLE would not accredit you. So, and we do have those numbers listed. We know that the self-study cannot provide all of the information. We don't expect it to. That's why we have a site visit, because we know that there will be things that you just can't reduce to electrons, or that we need to see in person to confirm that, yes, this is your practice, because we see you in practice doing it. So the application itself, we've tried to make it user-friendly. I used to have a template where you could type in the boxes, and there were so many schools that the template didn't work for. Now it's a Word document. So every time you type, you're just going to make it, it's going to stretch itself out. This particular document, called the Application, Self-Study, and Site Visit Information, also gives an example of a schedule and logistics page to show you what you and I will be working toward to figure out what will the team be doing, when will they arrive, where will they be staying, when are they going to be at the school, when are they going to be having their team meetings, and such like that. There is a budget worksheet to kind of help you estimate how much it might cost you to host it. The expenses of the team are the school's responsibility. Nobody on the team gets a stipend or is paid for coming, but we also don't feel that the team members need to pay to come and visit your school out of their own pocket. In order to try to be as respectful of the schools as possible, if we can find a team member in your district so that the driving is an option for travel, we will go for that if it's possible. Good. Thank you so much. All right, here, I'll just go back so you can see there are a few. This is what I mean by a few of the sub components that you have to get a 2 on. But again, Mark 1 is the commitment to Lutheran doctrine. Mark 2 is the commitment and practice of classical instruction and classical curriculum. So that's the meat of it. Okay, and then again on the application, self-study, and site visit information document, as various schools have hosted teams, they've come up with various suggestions. We have developed these documents, in other words, to try to help the schools know what to expect from us, and to help the new team members or the team members know what to be looking for at the school. One of our documents is called What Are We Looking For in Accreditation Visits? What we've done is create a chart, and it says this, not this. And it's for each of the marks. So what are we looking for in benchmark 1? Commitment to Lutheran doctrine. See how we've got a document that's set up like this. So commitment to Lutheran doctrine, that's the example I gave you about the church constitution. So we're looking for written documents that express this commitment. Not this. we hope that we don't find it. I hope I can keep track of my negatives here. We hope we don't find it not mentioned anywhere, so or possibly the commitment is listed one way in one document but is inconsistent and is stated a different way in another document, so that there's confusion about the line of authority or the commitment itself. So if you have in one, the church document, Constitution might be establishing the school under the authority of a, a school board, and then you get to the bylaws, and the school board is subordinate to the Sunday school superintendent. And see that's nothing was said about the Sunday school superintendent in the church constitution. Where did that come from? So that's the kind of thing we look for. Lutheran identity present in all school communications. I can give you the example of I saw a beautiful, slick, 16-page Lutheran school magazine, promoting applications and stuff. Lutheran, small print, last page, bottom of the page. Really, I mean, they were pushing their fine arts program, they were pushing their this, their that, but Lutheran was very small. Not accredited by CCLE, obviously.
Just out of interest, are you synod specific?
We have not been faced with that situation yet. Yeah, so far it's all LCMS. I would have to go to the board on that one. But I will say for the certification, we are not only LCMS. We are more open to other Lutheran if they want to do that. Faculty and staff are active members of the Lutheran Church, or are they Baptist and non-denominational and such? Now, just because you might have something that falls under this, not this, that again doesn't mean that you can't be accredited. Remember, back when those couple of them that you had to have the twos for, you might get a recommendation that says you need to work toward having a faculty that is in fellowship. But that doesn't mean you can't be accredited just for that reason. Yes?
Documentation would show that a faculty member is active. Like, would that be a pastoral letter, or would it be like a church attendance record? Or?
Well, in the faculty information page, they would state their church membership. That's asked for. And then we also ask for their reading list. And that gives us a really good idea about whether they're really active or not, because they usually have something from Bible study listed there if they're going to Sunday school or Bible study. We also talk with the headmaster, and when we are on site, we interview the teachers too, and we say, okay, so what do you do? This is an example where frequently, because we all wear how many hats in the Lutheran school, the teachers not only are day school teachers, they may be Sunday school teachers, or they may be working with the youth group, or they may be doing the camps and they generally do seem to be situations which are alluded to or referred to, say for the mark that's asking what's the relationship of the school and the worship services. Well, our third and fourth grade bell choir perform once a month, so they're not performing by themselves. We'll check with the teacher, but we're assuming that the teacher is active and also shows up with them for their performance. So, again, that's why the site visit helps us to confirm and to kind of fill in the things that you can't just write down. Mark 2, what are we looking for in benchmark 2? That's the classical instructions and classical curricular content. And so what are we looking for? Can the faculty discuss the trivium? Have they ever heard the words grammar, logic, and rhetoric? Do they know what they mean? And very basically, when they're teaching, Do they teach using the same instructional level for everything? That would indicate that they haven't quite grasped how to ramp up from grammar level instruction to rhetoric level. So, again, this is a document which we are trying to be helpful. Mark 3, what are we looking for in governance? Does the school have and function with articulated policies and procedures? Well, that could be something as basic as job descriptions. Do you have a job description for your teachers? Okay, I'm going to pretend like everybody's nodding. Yes. Or a description of what the duties of your teacher are expected to be. So it it doesn't have to be called a job description. It just has to be something that you can say, well, yes, we tell our teachers here, and then we'll see, yes, they're here. So
With that, we call it tutor role description. Do you have any tips and resources? I know there was a list of resources given out at one of the sessions that if people don't have that in place, that they can refer to documentation like that that's been already published by the schools.
okay, I'm not sure which kind of documentation you're requesting.
So you said job description. We call it tutor.
Oh, okay, right, because of your situation.
If somebody was starting out from scratch and they didn't have that, is there a place that they can go?
Yes, yes. Talk to any of the headmasters here and say, oh, by the way, can I, look through your faculty handbook or your staff handbook or whatever you want to call your handbook and just see how you listed this. So you're absolutely right. There's no need to start from the wheel, reinventing the wheel. So I hesitate to share it from me. I'd rather you get it from the teachers or from the schools themselves, but I'll be happy to share their email addresses with you.
Yes.
So, okay. And so maybe you don't have any kind of, I think I went the wrong direction. No, maybe your school board doesn't meet on a regular basis, doesn't keep notes, doesn't follow policies. Can you predict some problems if that's the situation? Or maybe your school board micromanages the school and is always kind of undercutting the headmaster or principal. There are, things like that show up in a site visit, even if you try to hide them on paper. So, the this not this document we developed to be very helpful for the schools as they're working on this. What are we looking? This is the one that scared a lot of schools in the early days. Mark 4, what are we looking for in institutional effectiveness or assessment? Again, are you reflecting at the end of the year about how did you do and what do you want to strengthen next year? And again, we're always asked to evaluate ourselves, as Christians. We know we're all sinners, but we're always constantly self-reflecting. So have you made that part of your school? And do you do that in all of the areas? So in other words, you probably don't just sit down and roll your budget over without thinking, well, wait a minute, we might need new curriculum. We might need new textbook series this year. This one is, our history books are 25 years old. There might be some new history since then. So what is your plan for reviewing your curriculum, for reviewing your personnel, for reviewing your facilities? Who's responsible for your facilities? How's that taken care of? You don't have to be responsible for it. You just have to know who is and be able to tell us. Excuse me. Now, one of the best ways to actually prepare for a site visit is to serve on a visiting team. So if you are serious about wanting to take your school through the process, I encourage you to let me know. I will be happy to put you on a team, and then you will go through looking at a school. And I can guarantee you, every time I've done this with a school headmaster who was scheduled to go through the process in the next year, they've all said, oh, Okay, good. Now I know what I need to do. I send you documents. I send you a document that takes you through the step by step process if you decide to serve on a team. You get the school materials or access to a Google document. We talk about reading the self study, writing the rough draft, and then we talk about the logistics and the schedule. So, visitor qualifications. This is why I needed your information. Team members have to be people who understand the marks and who are committed to classical education. I mean, they really do need that. They have to be able to see from a variety of different evidence how it supports the mark. Now, as team members, we'll talk together, and one team member may be saying, "Oh, you know, I didn't see anything for this," and then another team member will say, "Oh, well, I did." You know, so as long as somebody on the team sees it we can deal with that. They must have attended an accreditation session. Congratulations, people! You're all qualified. You have to be able to observe, summarize, and write portions of the report. The report is a consensus report, but individuals are responsible for parts of it, and then the entire team goes through the report and agrees on every single word and every comment, every recommendation, suggestion, commendation, and every narrative supporting it. So, and the team member must keep school information confidential. We do not. That's why I'm not really feeling comfortable sharing stuff, but I know that headmasters are willing to share some things. So, team policies, in case you're wondering, team policies will consist of 2 to 4 persons who have attended, again, the accreditation session. Smaller schools may have the smaller team, larger schools may need a larger team. That just, kind of makes sense. The teams always include a Lutheran pastor. There's always a Lutheran pastor who deals with Mark 1, the commitment to the Lutheran doctrine. It's always the pastor on the team who talks to the pastor at the church to verify all of those statements. I also am always on the team because I can say, yes, this is an acceptable amount of evidence, or no, this is not an acceptable amount of evidence. For people who have not been on a visit to another school, they may, they'll be a little, "Oh, I'm not sure I know what I'm doing." Yes, you're doing fine. I can just be there to assure them that. Teams may have someone on the team from the same district. We realize that we don't want to have a team that's only from the same district because we don't want there to be any conflict of interest. And that's another thing, we make sure that there is no conflict of interest. We define a conflict of interest as a team member having a family member, child, grandchild, spouse, who is attending or employed by the school within 5 years. Okay. Once they've been gone for at least 5 years, then we don't consider that a conflict of interest. And when possible, the team will contain members from a comparable size school. So you don't, a school of 50 students, we will try to find somebody from a school in that same range rather than get somebody from a school that is 225 students. The expectations and experiences are just so different. So we'll try to have you with a comparable school. So, because a lot of the visit is so, I would call it professional development. You get so many good ideas from meeting with somebody else who's in the same kind of a situation. So for schools that have combined classes, you need a team member who has experience with combined classes. And then they can not only help do the evaluation, but they can also share. Oh, you know what? This helps us in our school. We do this. So, okay. If you would like to contact me, my email is on the website, but it's also executive.director@ccle.org. Executive.director@ccle.org.
A question that
Yes.
isn't a redundant one for everyone else, but with accreditation,
Mhm.
I've been asked by several parents who are, because I'm in a homeschool campus,
Mhm.
should we do Veritas Press because it's accredited? Should we send our child? So what is the value? Is it for college admissions? Is it, what's the, is it good quality control?
Accreditation is a statement that the school has met standards that some organization has established. So it does, I think, give parents some assurance. And if a parent is actually knowledgeable enough to ask you, are you accredited? Are you going for accreditation? Then that parent knows that there are some standards so that you should, do something. Veritas Press, are you thinking of their curriculum or of their Veritas scholars?
A lot of Veritas programs in our campus. But really my question, I guess I'm trying to find out, does it help with college admissions? Or if you're not accredited and you issue a diploma, but you're not an accredited institution, does that lose credibility in the eyes of a college?
Oh, that depends on the college. Every college has the right to decide its own acceptance accreditation policy. So if it's through Central States, Northwestern, if it's through SACS, they'll say we automatically accept any graduate from any of those institutions. If you're not from one of those, which you aren't yet, then they will review your curriculum and they may decide to accept you, they may not. That's up to the college.
Because homeschool is just, you just issue a diploma, you can use the 8 to 78.
Oh, bless you. I would do as much documenting as you can. So, for instance, keep syllabi on hand. If you actually can get school SAT or ACT scores from the students, keep that on hand to try to demonstrate that your situation is offering a quality education, and therefore that the college would accept it. But that's up to each college. I mean, Patrick Henry runs into that all the time. So, yeah. Okay. Any other? Yes.
Yeah, I'm curious what you think of our situation here, because I don't think our situation should pursue accreditation until a year. We're trying to start our little school this fall. 6 students, 5 of whom are my own, and I'm the pastor of the church. It just, right, doesn't it? I don't think we're just we're throwing ourselves into the water learning how to swim, So I'm thinking that we could start this accreditation. Certainly I want to do it for administrator and so forth, but I think there's nothing to evaluate if we're not running,
Well, that is true, and we do say that a school to apply for accreditation needs to have been in operation 1 year.
Okay.
So this next year you go through, just keep all your documents and everything, and as soon as the first year is over, then you are eligible to apply. Yeah, but keep all the stuff you do because there is no requirement for the teacher or administrator certification. All of that stuff that you do this year will count, could count. So, but yeah, it's probably better to start the school and get it going. So, but I hope that were able to attend Mr. Evans' session this morning about the first starting the
I
school.
just did the plenary session. My wife might have gone to that one.
Okay. Well, it'll be posted online soon, and he had some very, very practical questions about if you're starting a school, what do you need to be, what are the steps you need to take?
Yeah. And he talked money issues, kind of.
He talked about money. He didn't say numbers, but he did talk about money. So, but good. Come and talk to me in a year. I want to hear how it went. Somebody else that started a school and then went for accreditation in their second year is Redeemer Classical in Fort Wayne. So you might want to contact Mr. Pulliam, the headmaster there, and just ask him what was his experience, what surprised him, what was, what wisdom could he share with you. So it can be done. This is what I'm trying to say. It can be done.
The self-study process, how does it unfold? If you think you have completed Mark 1, can you send your evidences in to receive feedback? Or do you gather your whole packet and send your self-study in as a whole piece and then get that feedback?
That is your choice. Especially nowadays, I mean, they invented Google since we started. If you put your materials for Mark 1 on a Google file and shared it with me, I would be happy to go in and look and say, I think you might need to thicken this evidence up a bit or not. But if that's assuming you have enough time. If you want to just work on it and then get it all together and then say, okay, Jackie, here's the link. Go, read through it. Then whatever is most comfortable for you to work on it. So, yeah.
I'm curious, have you ever, after the process, said, no, we're not accrediting your school, or?
Well, I'm not going to share names, but there was one school that I really sweated over. And as a consequence, as a result of that experience, we now have those benchmarks that if you don't have a 2, you won't get accredited. Because, there was.
Right. Well, that's good to know. I mean, accreditation is, to me, is only as good as if it can be tough with, this, somewhat tough and actually not just easily rubber stamp everything, So.
Well, we want it to be tough in the right way.
Right. Correct.
We don't want it to be tedious.
Right.
We just want it to be accurately reflecting a commitment to Lutheran doctrine and classical education.